Good morning, good afternoon, good evening for people gathering from different parts of the world. This is another Sunday Culture Story session, which is actually a collaboration between Explore Culture Group and Robert Burns World Federation. And I hope the president of Robert Burns World Federation, Marc, will join us very soon. Two groups have something in common. I'm based in the UK and Marc is based in Scotland, the UK. But two groups are also quite different in the sense we Explore Culture is a group with a little bit over a year's history, where Robert Burns World Federation has 136 years of history. This is the first collaboration between these two groups. We will have 4 parts where I will invite a few speakers to share their opinions and point of views. We hopefully will hear the voice and stories of Robert Burns World Federation very soon as well. My name is Mingji. I am in the UK, London, but I grew up in Shanghai in China. Last year in May, when pandemic started, I was bored. We didn't have a lot to do. So with some friends in different parts of the world, we decided to do, at that time, it was every Friday. We called it Coronavirus Quiz Friday, where we would come together, do some quiz and play some games. That's how we started. And I thought, okay, that's going to last for a couple weeks until the whole lockdown will be over and we will go back to whatever we would be doing. However, we had a couple of different lockdowns on and off, and this becomes almost like a weekly routine, a ritual. The date is moved to Sunday, and we renamed it as Cultural Storytelling, where we share stories about travel, food, history, technology, and inspiring people stories. That's also how I met all of you. Some of us even come to give and curate talks. So this is who I am and my story of joining Explore Culture, how it's the group started. I am going to invite the second speaker, but first I will play a video about this speaker. So I hope this will work.
I came to the US to do my master degree, and then I got a job, and then I got married, and then I settled down here. So a while back, like 3 years ago, one of my students talked about the most favorite instant noodles, and that's why I'm like, oh, okay, like everyone has an instant noodle, so I think that I should just talk about that. And if you have a chance, and if you have, like your photos on your phone, or you have any instant noodles at home, please feel free to bring the package to the camera at the end of this session.
We have the most simple one, and then the Nissin, that's the classic, the original version.
And actually, I think it's same as you, but I have to stay home because of COVID, and that means I have to cook 3 times per day, and sometimes I'm really fed up with it. So this is very, very helpful.
And I was at the grocery store yesterday, and I found Taiwanese beef noodle, instant noodle. Ooh. By One Culture. And with Taiwanese beef noodle, it's time consuming to make, but I found this fascinating. Just add hot water.
And here I also have a package of the instant spaghetti, which is quite popular nowadays in China. And cost-wise, it costs about, let's say, if I calculate into British pounds, it's about £3.
Let me present you. This is the most stinky noodle in China right now. Fun. Okay, it's very big. It's like 2 portions if you don't eat too much. I will open this. It's just in front of you. Okay, then you will know.
So this was from the talk. I'm going to spotlight Ploy. Ploy curated this talk about instant noodles, comfort foods from around the world. So I'm now going to invite Ploy to introduce her words, her story, how they got involved. Meanwhile, I would like to invite all the audience, if you can chat in the chat box, where are you based and how did you get to know the group? Welcome to put in the chat box, but Floyd, over to you.
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Ploy. I am in Boston, Massachusetts. To be specific, I am in Waltham, Massachusetts. I came to the US almost 10 years ago to do my master's degree in sustainability at Harvard. And you know, a lot of people ask me to teach them how to cook. So I started a job as a part-time cooking instructor about 7 years ago. And then a year later, I became a full-time staff at the Cambridge Center for Adult Education. And pretty much last week, I accepted a new position at the Commonwealth Kitchen as the Director of Educational Programs. So I have been in the job transition in a good way. And last year, as some of you know, that I have been attending a lot of Airbnb online experiences. As of now, I have to say that I have done more than 500 online experiences. Last year, I met JD. So JD has been attending a lot of exploreculture.net, and he was mentioning this group last year, and then I attended. And somehow I got into this wonderful community, and Minji asked me if I can curate the sessions that are related to food because I love food so much. And, you know, I did a few of them, and somehow I got into the curating some travels and histories as well. And now I have been involved with the exploreculture.net in a deeper way. So this is me, and I'm glad that I'm part of this group, and thank you, Minji, for continuing this community.
Thank you, Ploy, for bringing us a lot of interesting sessions, starting from food, but went beyond food over time. So now I'm going to play another talk by another speaker, and we will lead him out very soon.
This is me. This picture is about 67 years old. This guy right here, can you see my cursor moving around? Okay, that is me. I was 12. This fellow that helped me learn about ham radio, he is 34 at the time. This is the same guy, but he is now 94 in this picture, and I was 73 in this picture. He's holding the original there that was shot 60 years earlier. Here is my first station. Then this is a more current station of mine, fairly recently. This is a radio ham map of the world. Radio hams have call letters, like radio stations, television stations, and so on.
So that will be under the curation of Gary. We travel around the world through airwaves. I am going to spotlight Gary. So Gary, would you like to introduce your words? Yeah, how did you get involved?
Okay. Well, as you saw there on the video, I've been a radio ham I started when I was 11. In fact, it's the same age that the Zhao Yu in China, who was in that same program. He and I started at the same age. However, he's 11 now. He will be 12 in December, and I'm more than 12 now. It was approximately, I'm 80 now, so therefore I was about 69 years ago. Anyway, I became a radio ham, and what I early on learned was the value in talking to other cultures, talking to people all over the world. I've talked to people in approximately 260 countries. Now, countries in the radio ham map are divided up a little bit differently. As an example, in Puerto Rico, I have a Puerto Rican license and a US license and an Australian license. In Puerto Rico, which is a country, off the coast of Puerto Rico, there's a little island called Desecheo, and that island is 12 miles away. That's a separate country. Now, people don't live there, but radio hams get real excited when someone travels there and then puts a station on the air. That's the kind of thing. Now, as I've talked to the people all over the world, it's the culture aspect that has been so delightful to me. I originally thought about finding out about other people's equipment. Not of interest anymore. What I want to know is, what do they have for breakfast? What do they have for, what do they do for fun? What kind of activities? And what do they do that's different than what I'm experiencing and have experienced in the US? I dearly love finding out about places. I meet with people in Western Australia, which from here, from where I am in Florida, I'm on the east coast of Florida. From me, it's about as far as you can go anywhere in the world. It's called an antipod. It's the absolute opposite side of the world. Now, it's not quite in Western Australia, but you have to get a boat and go slightly west into the Indian Ocean, and then it will be at the antipod, the opposite of where I am in Florida. And I really enjoy that. I meet with those people 5 or 6 times a week, and we talk. I enjoy their lifestyle, everything about it, and that's the fun of all of this. I met Minji about in April of a year ago, and because I went to an event, a tour of Chinatown that she's put on, and I loved it. And then Minji sent me an email and said, "Hey, how would you like to join this group?" And so I said, "Oh, yes, absolutely. I would love to." So I have been totally delighted ever since, very much involved week after week after week, looking forward to this. It is so fun. I was going to mention one other thing, and that's Sayuri in Brazil put on a program that was so meaningful to me. It was Rio and the real live people. The real experience where most people don't go in Rio. I love that, just love that. Minji, that's about all for me. Go ahead.
Thank you, Gary, by sharing your story, your words, and how did you get involved. I'm going to play the third video and introduce the third guest.
Burns said that this kind of thing around people's necks really doesn't matter. What does matter is the gold that is inside the heart. So he said the man is but the rank is but the guinea stamp. The man's the gowd for all that. And what that means is that if you have a rank like his Royal Highness, when you come to a Burns supper, you lose that rank because we are all equal sitting at the table at Burns. And he was very keen on that. And he says that the gold is what's inside a person, not what's around their neck.
So I'm going to spotlight the president of Robert Burns World Federation, the group we are collaborating today, Marc. I always loved the talk you did in February about life and story of Robert Burns. Would you please tell us a little bit more about you and your words of Robert Burns World Federation? Because I believe some of us haven't had the pleasure to attend your talk.
Thank you very much, Minji, and my apologies for arriving late. We had another function that we had to do this afternoon, and we had to come on from that to the headquarters of the Robert Burns World Federation. So that's where I am. I'm actually in our headquarters building. I'm afraid I can't do much about the light at the moment. It's behind me rather than in front of me, so I'm not lit very well. So my apologies for that. We might see if we can sort that out fairly soon, but nothing much I can do about it just now. Anyway, the Robert Burns World Federation is an organization that's existed since 1885. And it's built around the idea of Robert Burns, the poet. And the idea is that we're trying to preserve his legacy and to make it as relevant as possible to the modern age. We have members and clubs that are part of what we do. And we engage with different events. So for example, today we were laying flowers at a statue in the middle of the town of Kilmarnock to remember the fact that on the 31st of July, the first ever publication of Robert Burns' book, poems chiefly in the Scottish dialect, was published. So that's something that we try to remember every year. And we have celebrations like that throughout the year. But we do a lot of good work. We do a lot of work with schools, helping school children to learn a wee bit about the Scottish language, and also to learn about Robert Burns and other Scots poets, and to do that in as fun and as creative a way as we possibly can. So that's a wee bit about what I do. I mean, I'm more than willing to take questions or anything else, but yeah, and I became a member of this group really quite by accident, and I absolutely love being a part of this group because I've learned so much about other cultures. In particular, Gary was talking about the favelas in Rio, and that was absolutely phenomenal going to see that area. But everything from Ploy's wonderful demonstration of cookery, which we had just a few weeks ago, it enriches my life, and that I think is something really very, very special.
Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. Really, I know this is probably one of the busiest week of the year for you, and so we really appreciate you are able to take your time to connect with us and collaborate with us. The last but not least, I'm going to introduce another guest.
Okay, do you want to? Right, this one.
Hello there, my name is Stanley, I'm 15 years old, I'm a music producer, video editor, and hold on. Oh my God. I'm stuck in a computer screen again. Okay, hold on 1 second. Okay, I believe this is the right place. Anyway, as I was saying, my name is Stanley, I'm 15 years old, I'm a music producer, video editor, and game designer. Fairly recently, I did a talk on Zoom all about game design, how I got into game design, and I showcase a bunch of different games that I've made over the years. If you're into that kind of stuff, then head over to exploreculture.net, where you can watch the talk yourself. If you're not into that kind of stuff, then head over there anyway, because you'll find many different talks from many different people with different ages, backgrounds, ethnicities, and they've got really interesting stories to tell. If you like these jokey videos, then head over to my YouTube channel at youtube.com/StanleyLikeCyan. But yeah, exploreculture.net, I'll see you there.
So Stanley, this is one of the most creative trailer I have ever seen. Thank you for another wonderful piece of work. Now you're spotlighted. Would you like to tell us your words? What's your story? How did you get involved?
You could tell that trailer was filmed during lockdown because of my hair, but well, I got into Explore Culture because my mum introduced me to Minji's tour of Chinatown, and I really enjoyed it. And she took me on loads. I also went to a load of other tours that were done by Minji, and I enjoyed every single one of them. So, you know, my mum kept on telling me, oh yeah, she's gonna meet some of Minji and some of her friends and whatnot, and I was like, can I come? I think it'd be really interesting. And then I found this group, exploreculture.net, and I decided to join. And yeah, it's been great.
Great, thank you. Our panel speakers today, and the audience in the group, if you would like to share, how did you know this group? Feel free to type in the chat box. So that's part one, introducing our separate words. Part two is really about explore this word we share in common together. What I would like to do is I'll play the slides of each event, each talk we did since the very beginning. but I will have a question for each speaker on the panel. After playing the video, I'm going to ask you, what's your favorite talk? I know it's a very, very difficult question, but I'm going to invite you to share one of your favorite talks and tell us why. Meanwhile, for audience in the group, if you attended more than one talks before, feel free to put in the chat box, what is your favorite talk so far and why is that? I will now share the previous slides.
Another year and then you'd be happy. Just one more year and then you'd be happy. But you're crying now. Way down the street there's a light in his place. He opens the door, he's got that look on his face, and he asks you where you've been. You tell him who you've seen, and you talk about anything. He's got this dream about buying some land. He's gonna give up the booze and the one night stands, and then he'll settle down in some quiet little town and forget about everything. But you know he'll always keep moving. You know he's never gonna stop moving, 'cause he's rolling, he's the rolling stone. When you wake up it's a new morning. The sun is shining, it's a new morning. You're going home.
It's really tough to come up with favorite. Even I can't, myself, I won't be able to answer that question. I can only say maybe what is the most memorable one. I'll start from my turn. I loved every single session of it, and we, as a group, always try to experiment. We experiment from. Oh. Is it better? Okay. Yeah. We experimented the collaboration between speakers from the same region, like the Raya, Ploy curated, inviting food lovers from different Southeast Asian countries. We experimented with people around the world sharing the same passion, for example, radio ham. The most memorable one for me is actually one we did in April, May this year, Dear David. It was a very different experience. David is over 70 years old. He lives in London, but we never met each other physically. He's diagnosed MND, neuromotor disease, 2 years ago. Since then, he lost the ability to walk, to speak, to swallow food. When I approached him to do this talk, I actually didn't expect I would ever hear from him. But a few weeks later, after I sent the first email, I got his reply saying, yes, it's going to be very difficult, but he's happy to do it. Normally, when we have this 1 hour program, for people like us, it takes time to prepare the content, slides, put all the questions and materials together. What I didn't realize back then was how daunting this task must have been for David, somebody who couldn't even lift a finger. He wasn't able to speak, so what he had to do was somehow he had to talk to a device, connect with a computer to write the script. Then the computer will speak on behalf of him using an artificial voice. For that script, he did 3 times. For recording, I think he tried 7 times. So he's probably the most prepared speaker ever. And back then, I didn't know all these backgrounds. He also contacted other organizations to invite guest speakers to talk about the disease and patients who suffer the same issue, how they dealt with the situation. Many people ask me, like, how did you find time to do it? It must take and consume so much of your time. What I would like to say is, actually, I gained a lot from it. I shared this with some of people in the group. That week, preparing the talk with David was also my most difficult week. Because in the UK, we had lockdown, we couldn't fly outside. And I had some situation in Hong Kong, as I used to live in Hong Kong. And I wasn't able to fly there to solve the problem. So I was feeling really panic. I was panicking because I don't know what's the future was going to fold out for me, and the consequence could be quite severe, but there was nothing I could do. The only thing I could do that week was to just work properly, thoroughly with David on that talk. And that process of preparing that talk really gave me a lot of energy, because at the end of the day, I look back, for David's situation, there's not a lot he's able to do, but he did his best, preparing the script for 3 times, rehearsed it for 7 times. So that's really a very valuable life lesson. It doesn't matter how bad the situation is, there's always something we can do, and there's always something we can excel at. So that will be my most memorable event. I am now going to ask maybe Marc, what's your most favorable event? I'm gonna unmute you over there.
Okay. Yes, my most favorite event, I guess. Oh my goodness, the favela, the Sorea's talk on the favelas in Rio. That was just astonishing. I mean, I was seeing a part of that world that I would never ever usually be able to see, and it makes me want to go out there and experience the wonderful sights and sounds that she was able to put on screen. She was walking around with an iPhone, just kind of recording and chatting to people. It was glorious. It was wonderful, and I felt that I learned so much about a world that I just didn't know. And how can you make how is your world enriched? Your world is enriched by having those experiences. So that was my favorite by far.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I like what you said. Our own experience is enriched by the word we sometimes don't have first experience with. Chloe, I'm gonna ask you to share your most memorable.
I like all the sessions. I have to be honest. This is a very difficult question because each session has its own uniqueness, culture, and history. I like the Georgia country, history, and culture that we have Laika who came in to provide the insight about Georgia. That experience, that session wasn't recorded, so I'm sure that all of you can check out her experiences. I think I'm biased, so my most favorite session is Raya session. I will talk. I will tell you on the listeners, like participants' perspective and the curator's perspective. That session was very special to me, not just as a presenter or as a participant. As someone who gathered everyone and shared their history and culture through Raya and the Last Dragon movie. We had 5 participants, 5 speakers in that session. One of them from Australia who woke up at 2 a.m. and spent her time and provide a session. One of them woke up at 9 a.m. Pacific time, who is working for the Disney Animation Studio. It's not just that there were a lot of people as participants, as an attendees who woke up at 6 a.m. from Polynesia to join the sessions and want to learn. I think, I love food, and the movie Raya and the Last Dragon shows that food still brings people together, regardless of who you are, what job you are working for. I think food also brings people together. So that sessions really taught me so many things. And after the sessions, a lot of people got connected outside the community. That, I think, made me feel like this community creates a wider network. So one speaker got connected with the attendee, and the other speaker got together with the other attendee. So I think this is part of the exploreculture.net. We bring people together.
That's very lovely to hear. So people get connected over Zoom, despite the fact maybe we won't be able to visit each other physically very soon. Well, Ploy, you are not the only one whose most memorable is the Raya session. Elizabeth also mentioned her favorite is Ploy's presentation on 5-plate soup. Thank you. Gary, how about you?
Okay. Also, a very difficult I can't come up with a real favorite, really. A number of things. One of them, speaking of the Ploy presentation, I'm not a cook, and so therefore I gain more because my learning curve is steeper. Therefore, I don't know anything, and I was absolutely delighted with a lot of the things I had no idea about. That was very fun for me. Also, when Sumio in Japan, now I'll bet you Sumio is not with us today. The reason is it's noon here in Florida, and it's midnight in Japan. So she's not able to, probably, I would guess, not able to leave her family and wake up and join us today. But the thing that about her talk of her community near Kobe in Japan was how it was so opening the doors for me. It was a localized presentation, and therefore it was real. That was the same as Sayuri in Rio, opening the doors that I never ever would have had an opportunity to see before. I just love that. It's a fishing village where she lives, and to explore and to understand. Also, our sisters in Thailand, same story. The fishing village and the real people. I just love the real people. I enjoyed also Wilmer's adventure. I was the one that conducted that. But what you didn't know is probably 2 years earlier, there was a van touring from Library of Congress. It stopped in Gainesville, Florida, and I interviewed Wilmer for the Library of Congress. So that's on now recorded there. Wilmer has an absolutely unbelievable story. It's just he's older than I am. He's done things starting in a cotton patch in rural Mississippi. His uncle, the uncle that he lived near, played in a band. And in 1943, the uncle was playing in a band, and they had an 8-year-old boy come up and ask if he could play his guitar with the band, and the uncle said, no, we have enough guitars. Turned out that 8-year-old boy was Elvis. So that's the kind of stories that are just so fascinating to me. I am absolutely thrilled to be a part of this group.
Great.
Gee, that's it.
Thank you, Gary. Now over to you, Stanley. What's your favorite from a youngster's perspective?
Now, yeah, my favorite would actually be Mike's talk about like the history of like mobile objects. Now, I don't really have a very good attention span with anything really. So even like some of the best talks, really, like my second favorite talk was David's one, because it was really interesting to hear about a man suffering from like such a difficult disease. But you know, my mind kind of trailed off when they started talking all about like sort of the scientific stuff about MND. So my mind kind of trailed off there. But with Mike's talk, what was good about his is I was never bored. The whole way through, I was never bored. So kudos to you, Mike. But yeah, that is my favorite. And also it kind of appealed to me a lot more because I'm quite a techie guy. So when I heard, oh, what's the history of like mobile objects, I was like, okay, let's have a look at this. And I really enjoyed it.
Great. Thanks for sharing among the panel speakers. Just a little bit updates from the chat box today. Eva joined us because of Pollock's Toy Museum, the oldest toy museum in the UK. Mike's favorite is the London Poop Story. It's David's first experience with group. Thanks to Marc's organization. I hope we can see you more often, David. Carrie from Canada found the group on Eventbrite, and her favorite is listening to the stories about lace. By the way, Anne, who did the talk, Story of Lace, she's also today in the group. And Ken said, again, the same. He's from Robert Burns World Federation, and Ken, welcome to join the Chinatown session when it's possible. So that's part 2. What's our favorite talk? Part 3 is why you get involved and why is this group important. What I would do is I would, again, take turns to invite each speaker to talk about your reason, because you either curated talks or you helped us with drafting constitutions, you help us to edit videos, put our best moments together. So you all spent significant amount of time in helping, contributing to the group. So I will ask you why you did what you did. After each of you did speak, I will show a bingo card. You would have the chance to turn a bingo card and answer a question. I will start again with Marc. Marc, why?
Okay, the why of it was that you asked me very kindly in January if I would do a talk on Burns, and I thought, yes, that's exactly what being president is all about. We should be talking about what it is we do and why we do it, and why Robert Burns for us is so important. And it's that when I was given the opportunity, I thought, well, that's really nice. And then you invited me to take part at to watch one of the other presentations a couple of weeks later, and I thought, oh, I've got some time, so I watched the presentation, and I was spellbound. I just thought, this is really so interesting. And what I absolutely love, and the reason why I'm here week in and week out now, is because there are people from America and from UK, from Vietnam, from Rio de Janeiro, from Japan, from all over the world, just joining in this one single group and learning and really enjoying each other's culture. And if there's one thing more than anything else that I want to learn about, it's the cultures of the world, because I'm a firm believer that I'm a citizen of the planet. I'm not really very interested in kind of drilling it down to saying that I'm Scottish or English or Irish or anything like that. I'm a citizen of this planet, and I want to understand how the planet works and why people think different things in different places. And then, of course, having been involved for a little while, I was asked if I would give, and this will come as no surprise to Ken Dalglish, who knows me very well. I was asked if I would give some support in terms of putting structure together for the group. So I've written the constitution, which we'll be looking at in August. And I can see, I mean, Ken's not got his camera on, but I know he's nodding his head. That's what he's doing right now, because he knows that's the sort of thing I do. So I've just thoroughly enjoyed it, and the why of it is because I get so much out of the group from everybody that's part of it.
That's great. As Mark mentioned, we will have our first annual general meeting where we will share the Constitution. When you're reading the 6-page documents about Explore Culture Constitution, you know who's the man behind it. So Mark, now I am going to invite you. I hope this will work to, these are 5 different dancers. Each one represents a bingo card. So which bingo card you would like to flip? Ballet, hip hop, bachata, break dance?
Well, I know which one it has to be because I used to be able to do it. I don't think I can do it anymore, but it's got to be rock and roll.
Rock and roll.
I used to be a rock and roll dancer.
So the question,
how to make an organization rock? That's a cracking question. I really like that. How to make an organization rock? Well, it's about participation. It's about bringing new ideas. It's about joining in and listening to other people's ideas and making things work. I mean, this whole afternoon came out of just simply a conversation where I was saying that I had this festival, which we've just started in Kilmarnock, called the Killyburn Summer, and wouldn't it be great if Explore Culture could be part of it? Okay, I'm very sorry for being late, but and I know, yeah, I feel very guilty about that. But you become part of a festival without even trying. That's what makes it rock, because you ask the idea, you put the idea out there, and everybody links in with it. It's just cracking.
Yeah. So to be able to listen, a new voice, and to be able to see things we are not familiar with is really the concept behind Explore Culture, to really tune in diversity to do greater things. Ploy, over to you. Why?
I think I have to repeat Mark's sentences that Minji asked me to help curate the talk. So she thought that, okay, I know I love food. I know a lot about people and food. So she asked me, like, can I curate the food topics of the talk? And I joined her. We all here have been meeting every week. For some of you who haven't known, that we literally have a meeting every week and talk about our structure, our talk. So at first, I just met with Minji one-on-one, and after that, we have Mark, we have Gary, we have Stanley. We also have Michelle and Jose, who are the backbone of our group as well, who have been helping with social media and everything. So I have been enjoying curating the talk for the group it's always fun to find something new, to have new topics, new idea. And the more we connect with people, the more we learn. And as Mark mentioned, that it's always about like the citizen of the planet, the citizen of the world. We always try to bring in the local perspective. It's always easy to find talks and discussions, information on the internet as someone's perspective. But when we reach out to people who live in that area, who came from that area, we always learn something from that perspective, and that helped me, and I'm sure to help you open your mind, open your heart, and be like an open-minded person. And I think it's not about like, oh, where you are from, where you are located. I think it's about differences. We accept differences. We try to understand everyone's perspective, and I think that's why I have still enjoy doing this. And hopefully we will bring something new to show you in the future as well.
Yes, really. The other talks ongoing, past, present, and in the future, nobody is able to do it alone. It's really a group of people who's the backbone, Ploy being a key backbone. I am now going to invite you to flip your card. Ploy, which card, which dance?
All right, I think I can do ballet.
Ballet, right? So I'm gonna flip ballet.
Yep.
How to make an organization mature?
Oh, that's a difficult question. Okay, I think since Mark already contribute the constitution part, and in the future you will see that we are also gonna have an annual meeting. I think we're just gonna try to make our group more structured and more formal. So as some of you know that we did a fundraising, some we accepted some donations to help fund some of the basic work, including website, social media, and now we assign one part of the fund to help support locals and speakers who are in need. So I think in the future you will see that we are gonna do memberships format where you can join an annual meeting, and then you can contribute your knowledge and skills and ideas to the group as well. So I think if we still get together and be strong, our organization will be mature.
Yes, thank you. How to make an organization energetic, rock, and mature. Gary, why did you put time in it? And you need to unmute yourself, Gary, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, there we are. Again, just like Ploy, I'm going to repeat Mark and say that citizen of the planet. Oh my, yes, that's exactly what I feel, Mark. What I'm looking here is the why is I really see my life as three different approaches to culture. One of them is going. Now, in my early years, very early years, I didn't go very far because we didn't go very far. But now I've been to England and Cambridge, where the delight, that's the second thing, going, actually visiting, where the delight is the historical aspects of it. The chapel there, King Henry V laid the first stone, and King Henry VIII laid the final stone on that chapel. And that was about 500 years ago. We don't have anything 500 years ago here other than the Native Americans, which are ignored too much, and I would like to include them in the culture. But the third thing is visiting by ham radio, I'm able to talk with people and then explore that further. My real want here is to invite new people. I sat and had coffee this morning with a friend of mine, new friend, who has been in the foreign service his whole life, lived all over the world, and he's the kind of person that I enjoy being with, and he would make a great addition to this group. So it's the fun of learning, reading, then actually experiencing, and now seeing people live and on the screen. I love that. That's me. Go ahead.
Thanks, Gary. Are you ready to flip your bingo card? So I'm gonna go back.
Marc got my card, so I'll go break dance.
Break dance.
Oh, that's good.
Organization Young, Gary.
I love that. I love that because when people see me, they see an old guy. I know that. But when they don't see me, when it's just my voice, I come across as maybe half my age. And so how to make an organization young is to get new people into it. And they may not necessarily be young physically, but they're young mentally. I'm living my inner child. So therefore, I am very young in thinking. How's that?
Great. Well, Gary, how to make an organization young? I think the next speaker, Stanley, would have most to say. Stanley, how did you get involved? And why? Why did you get involved?
Well, I think this was like a while ago now. We were having like a sort of party planning thing, I vaguely remember. But we had like a whole spreadsheet of like what our party theme would be, and no, it was like I can't even remember now. It involved like me putting up a screenshot of some game development software, and I said it was all about creativity, that you could have the ability to create anything you like, and then people were really inspired by that. So a couple of weeks later, Minji contacted me to say, hey, do you want to do a talk? And I was like, sure. And then I did it, and it was cool. I mean, it could have gone a bit better, but overall it went all right. And you know, I did the talk because I don't think many people know how like game development works, or sort of like, oh yeah, game development is only left towards the people who are really clever, because I'm not clever at all, really. I'm only like, because people assume that, oh yeah, if you're a game developer, you should be good at like maths and science and stuff, and I'm really not good at either of those subjects. I just do game design for fun. And it's also about, you know, like anyone can learn game design at any age or whatever. So yeah.
So Stanley, are you ready to flip your bingo card?
Yes.
So here we go. Which one?
I will go with hip hop.
Hip hop. How to make an organization energetic? Any ideas, Stanley?
I'd say don't like dwindle on one topic. So let's say if you're doing a talk, I'd say don't dwindle on one topic for too long, because like me, you would lose your people's attention quite quickly. So I think this is why I liked Mike's talk so much. I know I'm praising your talk so much, Mike. I hope you don't mind that. But the great thing about his is that it was always moving. It was never like, oh, it was fixed on one like object. It like he fixed it at a certain amount of time, but then he moved on quite quickly, which is really, really nice. But obviously don't move on too quickly, because then people will get rather confused. So you need to find that sort of middle ground, I think. And I guess don't talk in a boring voice, if that makes sense. Maybe, I don't know, maybe bring some like sort of like energy yourself as well. I'm not saying in my talk I was being very energetic, but I'd say just overall in general, I'd say one way to make talks more, energetic is to act enthusiastic and energetic yourself.
Yeah.
But
I'm definitely enjoying your voice and body language and your pace. So so that's part 3, why you decide to get involved. Final part, we're going to do it very, very quickly around the table, 1 minute each person. What would you like to see for the group in the future? Quickly from me, I would like to see really more equity. During pandemic, by seeing different words, I realized inequality between places and words. What I would like, one of the mission is maybe through sharing culture, we will be aware of equity and equality. So that's the one wish from me. Mark.
Yep, I would fully agree with what you've just said about equity and equality. I think that's really, really important. One of the things that I think we're very clear about is we saw in some areas great poverty, and the idea that we can maybe even some of that up would be absolutely fantastic, and something that I would love to see happen if there was a way of doing that. But I also think, just getting as many experiences from as many different places as we can. I mean, there was a tour of India from the south to the north that was undertaken, and I remember that one of the things that really impressed me was I was seeing things that I had never seen before. I'd seen the Taj Mahal, but not in the way that it was presented this time around. And I think seeing things from a local point of view, from that really interesting way of, well, this is what I see all the time and this is why it looks the way it does, is really valuable to me to understand the way the world is knitted together. And so more of that, more of other places of the world.
Great. Thanks, Mark. Ploy.
I think for our future events, we should do a lot about collaboration, to work with different organizations or different people, and then we invited them into one talk or one session, and then we work together that way. So it's not just about diverse information, it's also about creativity, new information, because if you want to know one topic, you probably can find it on elsewhere because the internet is everywhere. But in order to combine two speakers and more, it created new work.
Thank you, Ploy. Gary, I'm gonna unmute you.
Okay. For me, I like to see history. One of the things Marc is good at, and we had a speaker from England, from UK, from London actually, who was talking English history. I love that. And here's where I'm coming from, where the people came from. In other words, Eng and her sister did a little bit of that in Thailand, where they were talking about where the culture came from and how it grew to where it is today. I'm very fascinated. The connection between the past and the present and the future.
Danny, over to you.
Yeah, I feel like kind of what Ploy was saying, but just generally speaking, I feel like there should just definitely be more sort of interaction with the audience, because I mean, we are like trying our best, like people like telling their sort of own experiences with a certain topic or whatever, but I feel like just kind of even all the way through, there should just be a lot of audience interaction, even if it's something simple like typing in the chat, or like quizzes or things like that. I think that's like another reason to keep my attention going with the talk, if the audience gets involved in quite a lot of things, and it also makes talks more energetic. So yeah.
Thank you. Thanks everybody who's attending today's session. The first collaboration between Explore Culture, a very young group, with Robert Burns World Federation, a quite mature international group. And Mark, we're very grateful for to you giving us the opportunity to share our with your work. Thanks also for the inputs about the future for Explore Culture Group, how we can make the world slightly better by improve equality, make diversity visible, and for our talks to be more collaborative, have more connection between past, present, and the future. And thanks to Stanley's idea, make it more interesting, more engaging through interactions. For people who have been here several times, like Eva, or for people whose first time with us, like David, feel free to check out our Facebook group, exploreculture.net, or check out our website. Coming August, I believe in 3 weeks, we will have our first AGM, annual general meeting, where we will discuss our membership, which is free, but it gives you everybody an opportunity to raise your voice, contribute your time and your brain power to make the group a little bit better each time we run. Next week, we have an interesting talk, engineering of ancient Persian Empire. We have Baham, who grew up in Iran but lives in Australia, Melbourne at the moment. He's an engineer by training. So with his passion of Irani landscape and history, he will share with us the engineering power behind ancient Iran Persian Empire. So thanks very much, everybody. Thank you very much, Marc, for making this happen, really, inviting your fellows from RBWF to join us today. Happy weekend, everybody. We will see you next week. Bye.